Is the economy going to bust in 2019? Joining me today, Peter Schiff, CEO of Euro Pacific Capital. Peter, welcome back to the show. Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Happy New Year to you as well. Looking forward to seeing you up in Canada in a couple of weeks.
Yes, you will be joining me in Vancouver, where I will be moderating the Ultimate Gold panel. We'll talk more about that. But first, I was checking your latest tweets, Peter, and you said that it's not a volatile economy we are in right now, but it's a bubble economy. So how big of a crisis are you looking at here?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that I guess I did an interview where the reporter was asking me about why the economy is so volatile. And, basically it's just the air coming out of a bubble. That's the volatility. I mean, first the bubble was inflating and everything was going up. And now that the bubble is deflating, everything is coming down. Now, the Federal Reserve is trying to blow some air back in the bubble. If you look at Fed Chairman Powell's most recent comments, he's now backing off of his talk about continuing to shrink the balance sheet and maybe not raise interest rates anymore. And so that's kind of reflating the bubble a bit. But I don't think that's enough to do it. I think the air is still going to come out. I think the rate hikes that have already taken place are too much for the over-leveraged U.S. economy to bear. So I think the Fed ultimately is going to go back to zero. I think it's not just about slowing down the shrinking of the balance sheet. I think they're going to blow it back up even bigger with QE4. And of course, when the Fed surprises the markets by doing a complete 180 on monetary policy, I think that you're going to see the bottom drop out of the dollar. And that's when you're really going to see a big bid in the gold market.
Right. Well, perhaps the reporter meant the stock market is volatile. But
yeah, well, the stock market's moving up and down, because the bubble popped. We entered a bear market in the U.S. And right now we're having our first correction in that bear market where you get a rally. No, in a bull market, the corrections are down. Well, in a bear market, the corrections are when the market moves up. And I think we're in one of those right now. But I think the primary trend in stocks is down. I think this bear market still has a way to go.
Okay, you mentioned President Donald Trump and the Fed before, and as he jawbones the central bank, what's the likelihood, in your opinion, that he's going to get what he wants this year from them?
Well, I think he is going to get lower interest rates, but it's going to be because the economy is in recession, which is not something that Trump wants. In fact, it's going to work very, very much against him, especially if he tries to run for re-election in 2020, because I don't believe that the Fed's policies will be successful in getting the economy out of the recession. I think they'll help put us into a depression, which may not fully take hold until the socialists come into power in 2021. But I do think we'll have an inflationary recession that will only be exacerbated by the Fed's attempt to reflate the bubbles by going back to zero and doing more QE. I think that it's going to have a big impact on the dollar and therefore the cost of living. So it will be not stock prices or real estate prices that go up like they did last time, but food prices and energy prices. And so it's going to be a very, very difficult economy. And obviously that's not what Trump wants after having claimed credit for what he called the biggest boom in U.S. history, which wasn't even close to being true. But what we're about to experience will be a much bigger bust than the one we had in 2008. And unfortunately, Trump is going to get blamed for that, as will all the Republicans in Congress.
Well, especially does not want it since he will be entering the third year of his presidency the year before the next election, right, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, from a political perspective, Trump would have been much better off had we had the recession in his first year. In fact, it would have been easier for him to correctly blame it on Obama and the Fed maybe had it gotten out of the way right away. But because we started off with this big burst in the stock market and we got these tax cuts, Trump was, claimed ownership of the economy, but we postponed the day of reckoning by 2 or 3 years. But now, from a timing perspective, we're going to be going into recession in the second half of his term, which really reduces the odds that we're going to get out of it in time for the electorate to reward him for that. Instead, they're going to blame him for the recession, and they're going to take out their frustrations by voting for the Democrats. And of course, the Democratic Party is far more to the left now than it used to be. In fact, we're going to be to the left of Canada. So if you think you got socialism up north, wait till you see what's coming down here.
All right, Peter, finally, let's shift gears, talk gold. As we know, 2018 ended up being one of the worst for U.S. stocks in a decade. But we've had guests come on saying that gold does not benefit initially when equities go down and that there are better safe haven assets out there like the dollar and bonds. I know you're the ultimate gold bug, but how do you see it here?
Well, gold did much better than the dollar in the month of December. It was up about 5%. That was the biggest gain since January of 2017. Gold is up again so far this year. The dollar is off to its worst start ever if you want to measure it using the Bloomberg Dollar Index. So gold going up, the dollar going down. So I don't think the dollar looks to be a safe haven. And I think long-term U.S. Treasuries are even riskier than just owning the dollar itself. So I think gold is really going to shine in 2019, and I think it could shine a lot brighter if I'm right about the politics. If we end up going with a Democratic Socialist in 2021, my old forecast of Dow 5,000 is going to look very mild, compared to where gold is likely to go with a socialist administration and a sympathetic Federal Reserve monetizing all these socialist programs that are likely to be enacted, following that election.
Yeah, well, it's only just beginning. We will see if 2019 will be the year for gold. Peter, I look forward to having you on my panel in Vancouver. I urge everyone to attend the conference and look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to bring a winter coat up there. We're still in the 80s down here in Puerto Rico, and so it's probably pretty cold in Vancouver in January.
And a toque, otherwise known as a hat for you. Thanks so much for joining us, Peter.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching. We'll have more for you, so be sure to stay tuned.